Lois Lowry, continuing with Number of the Stars, our Read Aloud Weekly, Chapter 8, There Has Been a Death. Through a haze of dreams, Anne-Marie heard Henrik rise and leave the house, headed for the barn with his milking pail, at daybreak. Later, when she woke again, it was morning. She could hear her birds calling outside, one of them close by the window in the apple tree, and she could hear Mama below, in the kitchen, talking to Kirsty. Ellen was still asleep. The night before, so shortened by the soldiers in the Copenhagen apartment, seemed long ago. Anne-Marie rose quietly so that she wouldn't wake her friend. She pulled on her clothes and went down the narrow curved staircase to find her sister kneeling on the kitchen floor trying to make the gray kitten drink water from a bowl. "Silly," she said. "Kittens like milk, not water." "Well, I'm teaching this one some new habits," Kirsty explained. "And I named him Thor, after the god of thunder." Anne-Marie burst out laughing. She looked at the tiny kitten, who was shaking his head, irritated at his wet whiskers, as Kirsty kept trying to dip his face into the water bowl. "God of thunder," Anne-Marie said. "He looks like he would run and hide if there was ever a thunderstorm." "He has a mother someplace who would comfort him, I imagine," Mama said. "And when he wants milk, he'll find her." "Or he could just go visit a cow," Kirsty said. Although Uncle Henrik no longer raised crops on the farm, as his parents had, he still kept a cow who munched happily on the meadow grass and gave a liter of milk each day in return. Now and then, he was able to send cheese into Copenhagen to his sister's family. This morning, Anne-Marie noticed with delight that Mama had made oatmeal, and there was a pitcher of cream on the table. It was a very long time since she had tasted cream. At home, they had bread and tea for breakfast every morning. Mama followed Anne-Marie's eyes to the pitcher. "Fresh from Blossom," she said. "Henrik milks her every morning before he leaves on the boat. And," she added, "there's butter too. Usually not even Henrik has butter, but he managed to save a little this time." "Save a little from what?" Anne-Marie asked, spooning oatmeal into a bowl. "Don't tell me the soldiers tried to, what's that word, relocate the butter too?" And she laughed at her own joke. But it wasn't a joke at all, even though Mama laughed ruefully. "They do," she said. "They relocate all the farmers' butter right into the stomach of the army. I suppose that if they knew Henrik had kept this tiny bit, they would come with guns and march it away right down the path." Kirsty joined their laughter as the three of them pictured a mound of frightened butter under military arrest. The kitten darted away with Kirsty's attention when it was distracted, and it settled on the windowsill. Suddenly, here, in this sunlit kitchen, with cream in the pitcher and a bird in the apple tree, right outside the door, and with her Uncle Henrik out fishing, surrounded by the blue sky and the water, pulling up his nets filled with shiny silver fish, well, suddenly the specter of guns and soldiers seemed nothing more than a ghost story. The kind of joke you would tell frightened children after dark. Ellen appeared in the kitchen doorway, smiling sleepily, and Mama gave another floured bowl with steaming oatmeal to her. "Cream," said Anne-Marie, as she pointed at the pitcher of cream with a grin. All day long, the girls played out of doors under the brilliant, clear sky, and Anne-Marie took Ellen to the small pasture beyond the barn, where she introduced her to Blossom, who gave a lazy, rough-textured lick to the palm of Ellen's hand when she extended it. And the kitten scampered about and chased flying insects in the meadow. The girls picked armfuls of wildflowers even though they had dyed brown. And inside the house, Mama scrubbed and dusted, tisk-tisking at Uncle Henrik's untidy housekeeping. She took the rugs out to the clothesline and beat them with a stick, scattering dust into the air. "He needs a wife," she said, shaking her head as she attacked the old wooden broom handle onto that rug. "Just look at this," she said, opening the door. "He never dusts." And Kirsty," she added, "the god of thunder has made a small rain shower in the corner of the kitchen. Will you please keep an eye on him?" Late that afternoon, Uncle Henrik came home. He grinned when he saw the newly cleaned and polished house. Even the windows had been washed. "Henrik, you need a wife," said Mama. Uncle Henrik laughed. "Why do I need a wife when I have a sister?" he said in a booming voice. Mama sighed, but her eyes were twinkling. And you need to stay home more often to take care of the house. This step is broken, and there's a leaky faucet in the kitchen, and Henrik was grinning. Yes, and there's mice in the attic, and my brown sweater has a moth hole in the sleeve, and I don't wash the windows. And they all laughed together. Anyway, said Mama, I have opted to open every window, Henrik, and let in some fresh air and some sunlight. Thank goodness it's a beautiful day. Tomorrow will be a day for fishing, Henrik said, and his smile disappeared. Anne-Marie listened. She recognized the odd phrase. Papa had said something about it on the telephone. Is the weather good for fishing, Henrik? Papa had asked. But what did that mean? Henrik went fishing every day. Rain, shine, snow. Denmark's fishermen didn't wait for sunny days to take their boats out and throw their nets. Anne-Marie was silent, thinking. There was Ellen, under the apple tree, watching her uncle. Mama looked at him. The weather is right, she asked. Henrik nodded and looked at the sky. I will be going back to the boat tonight after supper. We will leave very early in the morning. I will stay on the boat all night long. Anne-Marie wondered what it would be like to sleep on a boat all night, to lie at anchor hearing the sea slap the sides and to see the stars. You have prepared the living room? Uncle Henrik asked. Mama nodded. It's clean, and I moved the furniture a bit to make room. And you saw the flowers, she added. I hadn't thought of it, but the girls picked some flowers from the meadow. Prepared the living room for what? Anne-Marie asked. Why did you move the furniture? Mama looked at Uncle Henrik. He had reached down for the kitten that was scampering past, and now he held it against his chest and scratched it under the chin. Well, girls, he said, it's a sad event, but not too sad, really, because she was old. Yes, very, very old. There's been a death, and tonight your great Aunt Bertie will be resting in the living room, in her casket, before we bury her tomorrow. It's an old custom, you know, for the dead to rest at home with their loved ones before the burial. Christy was listening and was fascinated. There's going to be a dead person right here? Right here? Anne-Marie said nothing. She was confused. This was the first she'd heard about a death in their family. No one had called her friends in Copenhagen to say that there had been a death, and no one even seemed sad about the death. And most puzzling of all, she had never heard of a great Aunt Bertie. Surely she would have known if she had a relative by the name of Bertie. I mean, Christy might not, but Christy was little and didn't pay attention to things. But Anne-Marie did. She'd always been fascinated by her mother's stories about her childhood. She remembered the names of all the cousins, and the aunts, and the great aunts, and the uncles, all the ones who would tease her, and the one that had been grouchy, and the one that would scold her husband, until he finally got fed up with her and moved into a different house. Though they did eat dinner together every Sunday. Oh, yes, all the wonderful, interesting people, all the personalities. And Anne-Marie was 100% quite certain that there was no great Aunt Bertie, that no such person existed.